morning. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Dick Fleming. During the Vietnam War, I was a member of First Force Recon, and I'm telling my stories about my time in Vietnam and some of the experiences that I had, and I hope you enjoy my stories. I did write a book about my life, my time in Vietnam. It's called Chasing Charlie. And it's available on Amazon or at my website, firstforcerecon.com, which also has a number of resources, links to other marine websites, and also posted a lot of photographs that I took myself or other people have sent me, some of which augment my stories. So you might be interested in checking that out. So, picking up where I left off with my other videos, we had finally left An Hoa, and I don't think any one of us was sad to say goodbye to that place. It was a real hellhole. And our new location was southwest of Da Nang, it was a hill. It was named after a hilltop. You know, the hills were on the maps were called Hill 481, which meant that the last feet, 481 feet. It could have been 1,481 feet, but it was Hill 481 was the way they named it. I'm not sure what our base was named exactly, but I'll use 481 as an example. And this base camp was on a plateau, and it overlooked a small Vietnamese village, and then for miles around it was rice paddies and cultivated fields. So we were on top of a small plateau, and beneath us was the Vietnamese village, and then the rice paddies below. So this was okay. We were kind of isolated. There was a long road that led down to our encampment, but unlike Camp Reasoner, which had one base after another set up along that main highway, we were relatively isolated. But it wasn't bad, and we would run our patrols out of there, and we had our own landing zone, and the choppers would come in, and just basically there was no place to go unless you could find someone in the motor pool who would take you into Da Nang City, and so we were more or less on our own. And when we came back from patrol, as I said before, we usually had 2 or 3 days and they left you alone. We didn't do much. We would get our gear back in shape, and maybe if we could get a ride into Da Nang, head over to Freedom Hill or someplace like that, get good food and some recreation there. But then we usually were put for the next couple of days. We went out on. We were assigned work details, repairing the barbed wire, or standing guard at the sentry posts, or being in one of the bunkers, protecting the area. We were always behind about 4 or 5 rows of barbed wire, concertina wire, which we normally set up ourselves. So we've been closing ourselves and protecting ourselves and preventing ourselves from preventing anybody from getting out. But one of our jobs was to act as liaison to the small Arvin compound, which was down in the village below. They had maybe a company of Arvin down there, and we were supposed to become a communications. We would go down as a communications unit at night, and we would act as liaison in case they were attacked. Now, I didn't like this idea particularly from the get-go. because again we would be down in an unprotected area between our men and the enemy. But I was assured that basically it was a safe location. The village had never been attacked, and a lot of the guys seemed to like to go down there. Truman, for example, said, "Come on, Dick, come with us. You don't want to be standing up here all alone. We go down there. Maybe we can pick up some women and have a good time down in the ville down there. Get some beer and for me that." I was getting rather short, and I just didn't have the stomach for it, the enthusiasm that he did. But one day I was assigned to go down with that team to go down to the village, and we set off at night. And we had a path that went through the barbed wire, kind of a circuitous path that went through the barbed wire, and was protected by 2 machine guns, so no one could easily get to us. But we traced our way through the barbed wire and followed a path down to the village itself. And hey, Huck, I don't know, he's doing something down there. Here he is. Hey, hi, buddy. Dog's life, right? So we went into the village, and we set up camp where we usually did. We had a fire pit there, and we could cook beanies and weenies and whatever we had in our sea rations. And then about 300, 400 feet away, the Arvin had another group, their group set up in a similar situation with a fire pit, and maybe 10 guys were around there. And we didn't really communicate with them. I was always leery of the Arvins. We did have we had a Kit Carson scout in our team that went out with another team, the 3rd platoon. These guys were usually North Vietnamese or Viet Cong who had changed sides. They were given money, and they were given perks like motorcycles and things like that, and fancy uniforms, and paid quite a bit of money to act as guides and scouts for our teams. Well, I personally, I didn't trust them. They were traitors from one side or another. They were in an awful situation, though. They didn't know who was going to win the war at that time, 1968. They didn't know it was the Americans or it was going to be the Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese. And either way, they were in a pretty bad situation. Kind of had to make a decision and stick with it. I got to know one of those guys fairly well. I paid him to teach me some Vietnamese. We had a little book, and he would, tell basic phrases like my name is Richard Ong Money Kong Richard. I don't know, little things like that. I still remember. Whether or not what I remember is the language or not is problematical. But when I was in the rear, we would sit together for an hour or two, and he would try to teach me some Vietnamese, and I would pay him a small amount of money to do so. But in any case, we got down into our unit, and we had our radio with us. We went down to the village rather. We had our radio with us, and we were cooking dinner. And as dusk fell, more men went over to the fire more Arvin went over to the fire by their side. They were cooking a chicken over there. It sure sounded good, and it sure smelled good rather. And they were talking away. Couldn't really hear exactly what they were saying. But looking over at them, they would often be pointing at us, and one of them in particular, a bigger guy, would be laughing, and they'd say something in Vietnamese, and then they'd all laugh, and he'd look over at us and point, and they'd say something, and they'd laugh again. And he kept on taking his rifle and moving it in our direction, looking like this with it. Well, I didn't like that at all, Well, I kept my rifle handy, right at my lap there. And this guy comes over to me, after dusk had fallen, it was night. He comes walking over, and he goes, "Twuk, twuk, twuk," means, "Do you have a cigarette?" "Kam hut twuk?" I go, "No." He goes, "Twuk," like he's ordering me to give him some cigarettes. Well, if I had cigarettes, I would have given them to him, but I didn't smoke, so I didn't have any. I go, "No." He goes, "You number 10, Marine. You number 10. So I said, "Lie down, Domami," which basically means, "Take a hike, motherfucker." And with that, he went back like that, taken aback. And the bastard put his rifle right at me. We were only separated about 4 or 5 feet. And as soon as he did that, my weapon went right into his face. And we stood like that for a minute. And time stopped. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking anything. It was a situation where one mistake, one false move, that would have been it. It would have been it for him or me. Actually, the first person to pull the trigger. Well, he started to lower his weapon. I lowered mine. He sort of looked at me and sort of nodded a little bit, like, we met the test together. He turned around and walked the other way. And I saw from the side that my friend Brown, who was with us from another platoon, he had lowered his weapon. He had damn near shot him as well. So my heart was still pounding, and actually, the first time, I could feel my hands shaking. The first time in Vietnam, I felt like that, but I was shocked. I was traumatized by that. Well, the radio went off. Radio meant the orders came back. "Come on back through the wire. Come on back." Well, we had never done that before. We had always stayed until morning. Going back through the wire at night, the pain. Why would we go back through the wire? Well, that was the orders. Go back through the wire. We're coming back. Come back in. So our group, we had about 6 people. It was Brown, myself, Thurman, 3 or 4 other guys. We got our gear together, went back up along the trail. It was moonlit. We got near into the barbed wire and started traversing into the barbed wire. And all of a sudden, these bright lights came on. Bright lights. And the major was there, and the sergeant, the top sergeant was there. And he said, "Stand where you are." And we looked around. He goes, "Drop your weapons." We dropped our weapons. We looked around on all sides, beyond the lights. We saw like a company, or maybe not a company, a platoon of MPs. And they had their weapons ready. They had their holsters and everything. What the hell was going on here? I thought to myself. Well, they separated us out, and apparently the officers thought that the people who were coming back from the Ville were bringing back drugs or something, and maybe they were. I don't know. But they searched me down, and I didn't have anything. And they searched Truman down, and something fell out of his pocket, and the sergeant goes up to him. He goes, "What's this down here?" And Truman goes, "Condoms, condoms." And sure enough, there's a packet of condoms there. It's in the dirt. Sergeant grabs them and hands them to Truman, and he takes them off to the side. Well, they get to Brown, and they're searching Brown, and they found a pack of J's, of marijuana, maybe four or five J's in his coat jacket. Well, I didn't know he had them or anything like that, but the sergeant goes up to him and he goes, "What's this?" And Brown didn't say anything. And with that, the sergeant took his rifle butt and smashed him right in the stomach. And Brown fell on the ground in agony. And the MP goes over and the sergeant goes, "Take him away, take him away. Piece of shit, take him away." And they dragged Brown off. And the rest of us were told to go back to our hutch. And as we passed the MPs, we could hear the MPs pounding away at them. We hated those bastards. We really did. They were just awful to Marines. You know, any excuse, and they were using their fists, or really wasn't a good situation for them. And I could hear the sound of them hitting Brown. So Brown was one of the youngest guys in Force Recon. He must have been only about 17 years old, and he was good in the bush. They got him out of there. I don't know what happened to him, but to lose a good man like that over 4 or 5 marijuana cigarettes, it didn't make any sense to me. Well, anyway, that was the story, and that's what happened on Hill 481. I'll tell you a little bit another story about that place later. Hope you enjoyed listening to me, and I hope you'll subscribe to my channel and come back hear some more of my tales. Thank you.